Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Sharing Successes from the Safer Chemistry Challenge Program Washing System. To start off, I'd like to give us a couple housekeeping items. The first being everyone is on mute for the entire webinar. If you have a question, please submit those through the question box that's provided by GoToWebinar. Also, at the end of the webinar, there will be a short evaluation. If you could please complete that, it will help us with designing future webinars and webinar series. And finally, there is going to be a link to the slides and recordings that you will all receive after today's webinar in a follow-up email. Those slides and recordings will be available later in the day tomorrow. Today's webinar is part of a larger series. It's the third of our series. The first began last spring, 2012. And this series, this is the first webinar. The next webinar will be March 20th, and that is a collaboration between the Environmental Council of States, the US EPA, and PPR to present a webinar on P2 and safer chemistry through use of the TRI program. The April 23rd webinar is entitled Safer Alternatives to Methylene Chloride Consumer Product Paint Strippers. And the May 15th webinar is entitled State Profiles and Chemical Policy Implementation. Our first speaker today will be Cindy McComas, who is the co-project manager for the Safer Chemistry Challenge program, a program of the National Pollution Prevention Roundtable. She is also an adjunct professor in the Department of Bioproducts and Biosystems Engineering at the University of Minnesota. Our second presenter today is Leah Boyd. Leah is the Safety Environmental Regulatory Manager at Washing Systems, LLC. She's been with Washing Systems since December 2009. She is responsible for evaluating the safety and environmental hazards for chemicals prior to their inclusion within formulations, writing MSDS, and conducting monthly safety training. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Cindy McComas, our first presenter. Cindy?
Thank you, Angela. I am happy today to be here to talk about the Safer Chemistry Challenge program. And some of the topics that I'll be covering include some basic program components of the Safer Chemistry Challenge program and the value pieces that are associated with this program. Our geographic focus is in the Great Lakes, and I'll talk a bit about that, and the benefits of reducing chemical hazards, and provide you with some focus areas that some of our members are concentrating on as part of the Safer Chemistry Challenge program. So as the overall Safer Chemistry Challenge program is in many ways, for many companies, part of a larger sustainability program. Of course, this would be a slice of a program like that that's related to chemicals of concern, perhaps a smaller portion, but a very important portion in terms of reducing toxicity. So the Safer Chemistry Challenge program is not a certification program, but it is a challenge and recognition program designed to motivate, challenge, assist, and recognize facilities that reduce the use of chemicals of concern to human health and the environment. And a couple of points I'd like to make here are that we have some reduction goals that are set, but they're very flexible depending upon the needs of the company. And our measures will be, our goals or achievements will be measured against the baseline year of 2010. It is focused on hazardous chemicals and chemicals of concern. It's a voluntary and collaborative program, and I'll show you some of our partners in a moment here in a future slide. And there are no fees for the program if you're located in the Great Lakes Basin during the time period of the grant that we have. Certainly it's a source reduction emphasis, focusing on safer alternatives through product or process redesign. So the value of participating in the Safer Chemistry Challenge program, we have a diagram here that shows the steps in participating in the program. And ultimately our goal is to close the gap between the identification of chemicals of concern, which we we often know and do for any of our industry sectors, and the implementation moving toward safer chemistries, transitioning toward safer chemistries. So closing that gap between what we know to be chemicals of concern and moving away from those chemicals of concern. And one of the resources to do this is to partner with state technical assistance programs that will help identify safer alternatives. Also to develop and implement a one-page action plan according to this diagram here with the Safer Chemistry Challenge Program. One of the value pieces of the action plan is that it can also help companies with documentation for other certification programs that you may be involved with, and also help keep companies moving in the same direction and aligning their goals together for these many programs that exist that companies are working with. Finally, to get recognition and to communicate achievements. So those would all be the value pieces associated with this particular program. We have a particular, in the next slide, we have a focus now for the Great Lakes Basin. So we have started the Safer Chemistry Challenge Program in the Great Lakes area with support from a U.S. EPA Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grant over a 3-year period. We're roughly a little over a year beyond the period of that grant now. The goal is to advance the adoption of safer chemistries and the manufacture and use of these products or chemicals of concern in the Great Lakes Basin. So we are, as part of our objective to recruit industry members into the program, we also want to deliver back to them through 6 green screen training workshops, 2 green chemistry conferences, and then the webinar series in the spring and the fall that Angela talked about a moment ago. In the next slide, we have a number of tools and resources for you that could be useful. Again, I've already mentioned the Technical Assistance Network that has existed for 15 or 20 or 25 years that have historically focused on pollution prevention and now includes energy efficiency and safer chemistries, strategies for working with suppliers, and then many website resources that are available to you, such as a sample action plan and case studies and success story templates that are available. We also, in the next slide, have many partnerships with the various partners, especially in the Great Lakes area, industry folks, as well as state, regional, and NGO organizations. And then the next slide shows you a few of our members that are part of our technical advisory committee that have helped guide and direct our activities in the Safer Chemistry Challenge Program, help us identify the barriers that are faced by industry and the potential solutions as they move away from chemicals of concern. So some of these representatives are from Hewlett-Packard, Herman Miller, Staples, Warner Babcock Institute, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and NSF International. And in the next slide, we talk about the environmental and economic benefits of reducing chemical use. I think that we're all familiar with, but it's important to keep in mind that there are a lot of positives to moving toward safer chemistries, preventing exposures to chemical hazards, creating market opportunities for new products through innovation, being able to more readily anticipate a changing regulatory landscape, and lower operating and material costs with use of safer chemicals. And in the next slide, I have a few examples of some of our members and their focus areas. Tennant Company is one in particular out of Minnesota that manufactures floor maintenance and outdoor cleaning equipment, and they're looking at, in some of their concrete sealants, to reduce xylene and toluene diisocyanate, or TDI, which we know is a chemical of concern. Gojian out of Michigan is a boat manufacturer that formulates epoxy products. They have a focus area of reducing hexavalent chromium in one of their epoxy products. So again, this is just to illustrate how the action plan can focus the companies on moving toward looking at safer chemicals in their operations, their processes, and their product formulations. The final slide provides you with some contact information for the National Pollution Prevention Roundtable, of which the Safer Chemistry Challenge Program is part of. please look us up at p2.org. We have p2.org/challenge is information on the Safer Chemistry Challenge program. You can email us at saferchemistry@gmail.com, or you can email me directly if you have questions about the program at the email address that is located on the slide. And finally, I wanted to mention that we have, as our next speaker, Leah Boyd with Washing Systems. She's Safety, Environment, and Regulatory Manager with Washing Systems. Thank you, and go ahead, Leah.
All right, thank you. I am with Washing Systems. For those of you who are not familiar with our company, we develop laundry chemicals for the industrial laundries, and have been doing so for quite some time, and have grown to one of the largest chemical suppliers to commercial laundries in the United States and Canada. Next slide. We joined the Safer Chemistry Challenge program back in March 2012, but we had embarked on our green initiative a bit further back in 2005. We made our own internal commitment to remove some nonylphenol ethoxylates from our detergents. And for helping us identify the best alternatives, we used some criteria to evaluate green chemicals. One, we wanted our products to be certified by the EPA for the design for the environment. We've also attended the green screen training, and so we use that as an additional criteria to help screen out chemicals of looking at a benchmark 3 or higher. When developing, we've also need to focus for our customers' sake. They have to have a good product that's going to perform equal or better. Otherwise, they're not going to be motivated to switch. The costs have to be similar, as the industrial laundry industry is very old school. So they need a lot of benefits in order to give them that incentive to switch. There also could not be any hidden costs, such as increasing the washing time, energy use, or water usage. So they don't want to see their costs increase in other areas but stay the same for the chemicals. And then also, lastly, to have the same direct usage so that they can still use the same equipment and pumps and tanks and not use a lot more chemistry. Next slide. So our focus initially had been on the nonylphenol ethoxylates as one of our primary chemical of concern and target for the program. And we've used the same criteria that I've already described to help us select the other chemicals as well, such as the butyl cellosolve and the petroleum hydro-based solvents. These two chemicals are often used with the nonylphenol ethoxylates in the detergents as well. So by reformulating new products without the nonylphenol ethoxylates in there, we were also able to eliminate these two chemicals as well. And the other two areas we chose to focus on, mainly for regulatory requirements, were for components present in our laundry builders, such as the EDTA and the phosphates. Next slide. Some of the drivers for the chemicals that we chose, obviously the nonylphenol ethoxylates, a lot of literature out there and test data showing that they're endocrine disruptors. There's obviously the aquatic toxicity concern, and we were already seeing a lot of bans across many of our customers. Canada had banned it. As we embarked over to Europe, they had bans on it. And then even some individual states, such as Connecticut, and even more on the smaller local level, some POTWs in California and Arizona had already banned it from entering into their discharge. And another driver was our trade organization, TRSA, entered into a voluntary agreement with the EPA to phase out NPEs by 2013. So obviously we're a large benefit here for our customers to phase that out earlier. Next slide. For the butyl cellosolve, we chose this chemical. Obviously, it was present in our detergents as well. But here we've got a lot more health hazards as well as the environmental hazards. So we have inhalation and absorption. For the petroleum hydrocarbons, again, health hazards of central nervous system effects, and then also to bioaccumulate as well. For the EDTA, we were seeing state bans such as in New York, so it was easier to provide one product that we could sell across the country and into Canada. Plus it was persistent organic with hazardous degradation products. And lastly, we chose to eliminate phosphates as well. Again, we were seeing bans in various states and locally as well, and then the issues that it caused for the lakes and streams as well. Next slide. So since we've covered many different areas of through the country, the United States and Canada, we are already seeing the regulatory burden of having to develop new products just for certain states, or in the case of Canada, they had banned NPEs a while ago. So instead of developing one product, which often was very costly, we had to look at ways to help lower that cost and for our customers, and one of that was to order more of the greener chemicals from our suppliers to help us lower some of our costs. So back in 2005, that's kind of where we started with our research and testing different alternatives. But what we had to do really was incorporate that into our core values and beliefs internally, and then also expand that out to our customers. So our value is to produce products that clean better and help create a better environment, and to help better serve our customers by being an innovative provider of laundry resource services to the laundry processing industry. So yeah, we were working on the green chemistry and the developments, but a lot of times that wasn't enough, because the laundry industry was very old school. You know, they liked the NPE products, they worked well, so it was difficult to get the mentality for them to change. So our management team even provided some guarantees, guaranteeing the success of the chemistry, so that the customers would go to see that they could get better quality, more profits, and take better care of the environment. Another area where we also joined the force was with our trade association, the Textile Rental Service Association. They had a laundry ESP program, and it was basically a voluntary pollution prevention and resource conservation program, collaborating with the EPA, as I can see with the voluntary phase out of the NPEs. Next slide. So after we have targeted certain chemicals within our core line, we've incorporated green values into our company and our culture. You know, we had to focus on how to select the best chemical alternatives. You know, where do you turn to? Where do you go? Because we wanted to develop that great product so that we could then offer the customer more incentive to switch to that newer product. So, you know, at first, well, at least when we were started out, a lot of the green trends began more in the consumer products. And so we had some suppliers with really good relationships that we looked at them to help provide similar green chemicals that were being sold into the consumer markets. And they would send us a bunch of different samples. We would evaluate it, and it really had a strong relationship that we could communicate with them, provide our feedback and recommendations, and then they would go back and redevelop that product so that it would be acceptable for our application. Another area, we tried to select the suppliers that had more the natural chemical products, which would provide the necessary surface tension we needed for the detergents at the appropriate cost. And then also looking at manufacturers who had a variety of products. You know, for some of the different surfactants, there's different chain lengths that they could use, so that at least that gave us a broader range of products to evaluate. Next slide. Then as we got more advanced and into the green wave, we been using the clean ingredients as well. So they've got some chemicals that are already evaluated in surfactants, solvents, fragrances, and chelating agents. So we utilize that as a very good resource as well. But often, if we're working on new products that don't fit into any of those classes, then we have to have other alternative means for analyzing which chemicals to use, and that has been where we use the green screen also. Next slide. One of the problems, we initially ran across when using the green screen was trying to get the scientific data so that you could actually have a completed green screen and you can truly evaluate the chemical. So we use some nice free resources out there to get some of the data that's available. First, we go to a lot of the European databases with the REACH program. There's a lot of data out there. The two data sets, the OECD SIDS and the Euclid data set, both have a lot of data on risk assessment, ecological impacts, and the toxicological for animal testing, and even if there was any case studies with actual human exposure. Another resource that we look at a lot is the HERA, which is the Human and Environment Risk Assessment on ingredients of household cleaning products. Obviously, this is going to be limited just to cleaning products, so the database is not quite as large. But again, it's going to provide similar data set to the European Commission Joint Research Center data as well. Another one that we use is the International Safety Scorecard. That at least gives a lot of information on classifications for the GHS and the European and DOT classifications, and also provides some general hazards regarding the chemicals. The Hazardous Substance Data Bank was another one that was pretty beneficial. This one is going to just cover toxicological impacts for human exposures, and it's going to have animal testing results as well as if there was ever been a case reported of exposure and what those impacts were. Another data set we use is a ToxNet Toxicological Data Network. Now this has a lot of different databases on there, so it does take a little bit of time to go through. It has a link to the hazardous substance database and also an environmental one as well, the CCRIS one. And then another one is DART, which has reproductive toxicological impacts as well. And lastly, the Agency for Toxic Substance and Disease Registry talks more probably generic on the summary of different health effects and how people can get exposed to those chemicals. Next slide. So after we've selected our chemicals for the challenge, we've had an action plan of how to identify alternatives. We actually had already began that process when we entered the challenge. So we started doing some of the research in 2005, and in 2008 we were already implementing some of our NPE-free detergents to our customers. So by 2010, when the program kind of dates back to, we had already had some significant progress. So for the nonylphenols and butyl, cellosolve, petroleum, hydrocarbon-based solvents, we were pretty close to our targets. And then for the builders, we had just started a rollout in 2011 of some of our newer builders without the phosphates and the EDTAs. Next slide. So that brings us to today, that we're very close to many of our goals. We are on the NPE products, on the dry products, we've already converted all of those and no longer offer dry products that contain NPEs. So we're still working on converting the liquid chemistry as well. The butyl cellosolve, that one, once we convert everyone off the NPEs, that one will be 100% converted as well for our customers. The petroleum hydro-based solvents, again, there's two areas that we had that in our products. One was for the detergents, which were nearly at our goal, and another is for some specialty products that maybe help get out some additional heavier greased items. And then for our builders, for the EDTA, we're almost at our goal, and for the phosphates, we have well exceeded it, because we've had some more customer widespread acceptance than we anticipated. Next slide. With our little summary of kind of what we've done with our the NPE products, we have totally eliminated 3 detergents from our product line that have NPE, that had NPEs in them. Like I said, we've already met our goal for the dry products, and we are continuing to convert our remaining customers. We are still within the time frame of that voluntary phase-out that our trade association made with the EPA. So obviously there's probably a few customers out there who kind of have the strongholds to the NPE products, and you know, they're seeing the change and the beneficial impacts from our other customers. So we're continuing with that conversion. With the butyl cellosolve, again, that was contained in a lot of our products that had the NPEs. So by eliminating them, we're going to also eliminate the butyl cellosolve. So when that goal is reached, so will the butyl cellosolve as well. With the EDTA, we have converted all of the U.S. and Canada to a non-EDTA builders. Right now, we just have a few customers out in the UK that are using it, and that's mainly using up just what we have in excess inventory. And then with phosphate, again, we had a greater acceptance from our customers. We had one major chain who recognized the benefits. They were happy with the quality of the product, so they committed to eliminate phosphates within the entire organization. And then we also acquired a newer customer, and that was one of their requirements from the onset, that we must have a phosphate-free builder. Next slide. So when we entered the challenge, we thought we set some pretty aggressive goals, but you know, we still had probably even tougher requirements from our customers. Like I indicated before, you know, it was very difficult initially at first to get them to change. Just that a product is green isn't going to be enough. So we had to exceed their expectations. You know, not only were they looking for a better chemistry, they were also looking for additional benefits such as reduction in water, energy usage, and washing time. You know, we looked at products with an innovative design. You know, often a lot of the components listed on clean ingredients are very expensive. So we had to use some you know, unique formulating so that we could help maintain those costs and not create a new product that was green but significantly more expensive. We also chose to look at formulations with renewable resources, and it also had to be compatible with the customer's existing chemicals and infrastructure. So we didn't want to have to go in and replace tanks and pipes and pumps in order to convert the product. But really the driver for the customer was it had to have that economic benefit. Otherwise, they may not switch unless there is a regulatory requirement. And lastly, you know, even with the challenge, you know, we're still continuously evaluating our chemistry. You know, part of the DFE commitment is to constantly, you know, evaluate that chemistry and identify better alternatives. So we continue to do that. We're also looking at, you know, continuing this challenge probably more internally and looking at other areas we can reduce, such as chlorine bleaches, or if we could do any further developments of the laundry processes for our customers, such as reduction in water and gas or product packaging. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Cindy. Please remember, folks, to submit your questions in the question box provided in the toolbar on the side of your screen. This question's for Leah. Are the customers happy with the new products?
Yeah, they are. Kind of like I said, that they had set expectations and criteria or they wouldn't even switch products. You know, they obviously wanted the same quality, and a lot of times what we see is we're able to produce better quality. That's kind of one of the goals we set internally when we run our own tests or go out to a customer to do a field trial. We're not happy with just same quality. We want to see better quality and similar price.
Okay. And are you pushing, or how large of a push is there through TRSA with their members?
A push for, no.
The chemical alternative.
Well, there's there's a big push, obviously, with the nonylphenol ethoxylates, because that's actually, a deadline. That after that, there's going to be more regulatory burden of reporting and studies to prove, the safety of the even the garments that would be going out to the customer. And then they also have a green, I think a green certification for the laundries as well. And so one aspect of, I believe, of that criteria is for chemicals.
Great. And Leah, another question for you. Do you do the green screens on site, or do you have a third party?
I actually attended the green screen training. Several of us from my company went up for one of the green screen conferences, the training.
Okay. And we haven't received any further questions. So thank you everyone for attending today, and a special thank you to our speakers, Cindy McComas and Leah Boyd. This webinar was recorded, so if you'd like to view it again, it will be available later tomorrow. You can access it through p2.org. Also, please take a moment to fill out the short evaluation that will pop up as soon as the webinar ends. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.